Here at the Pit Stop Ranch, you can probably take the grand sum total of our collective brain power and represent it as an overweight, asthmatic hamster on a wheel. That doesn't stop us, though, of course, from having two different minds about just about everything. So, I don't know about any of you, but I think I'm ready to move on from doing sanding and painting. I don't mind sanding, and actually painting is kind of cool, but I want to do something a little different today. Not that there isn't plenty more of that to do, there is, but the fact of the matter is, I kind of got a scratch to itch, an itch to scratch. I think I like metal fabricating a little more than car painting. On Jimmy, we have a number of metalworking projects before we can finish up and put everything in paint. For example, one of the potential metalworking projects I'm pondering today is this one. This is the inner fender for the driver's side of Jimmy. Previous owner cut out this window. We believe, and pretty confident, it was in order to then install a power steering box to give the truck power steering. Seems like a good idea, actually. However, we don't plan on putting power steering in this. We don't feel like going through that conversion, doing that work. So the question stands, do we leave this gaping hole, which allows mud and road grime to get splashed up into the engine bay, because someday we might want to put power steering in, or someday maybe the next owner might want to put power steering in? Or do we patch it up on the grounds that let's make it look a little bit more original and complete? So I'm on the fence on that. So actually, that I am on the fence on that, I'm actually not going to tackle that today. But if you would be so kind as drop your opinion down in the comments, I would appreciate that very much. I'd like to hear your feedback on that. Here are our running boards, and we got a bit of dent damage on both. This one here, we got a pretty good smash here, and both have a fair amount of rot on the actual face. I think what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna work on this and see about fixing these rust spots and taking the dents out. Let's get on this metal repair and have a good day. Now here's a little better look at some of the rust damage. It is very clear that someone has attempted to repair this in the past with just smearing some crap in there and calling it a day. If you flip it over, this is one of the mounts for attaching it to the truck, and it's all ripped out, so we're probably going to have to figure out something regarding that, which will make fixing this rust from the backside a little easier. The other rust is actually under this brace. So, and you can see the inside through the hole here that it's really close to the edge of the brace, which is pretty normal. Our options is to try and surgically cut this area here out without damaging the brace underneath, or going through and de-welding the brace and fixing the area and then putting the brace back in. But when we get started, we need to know what material we're dealing with here. Handy dandy gauge finder. This piece here appears to be 16 gauge, which is going to make making this a little more challenging, but not impossible. Okay, so our first step, before you ever cut out any of the rusted area, is you want to make your patch so that it fits all the contours and everything that's there. So before you cut any of this out, you need to make your patch. Now, I'm not going to patch a huge amount. I'm just going to patch where the rust is bad. Obviously bad. So, on the other panel, it's like 2 ribs wide. As you can see, there's individual ribs. Like this one, it's 2 ribs wide and about that long with some more damage up further. So if I took the longest section here and put these ribs in it, it would result in something I could chop up to replace all the bad stuff on the other one, plus these sections on this one. God damn, allergies.
The first step is to go ahead and try and get a pretty decent idea what exactly we need to make. And that means making some measurements and laying it out on a piece of steel that we're going to be using for actually making the patch panel. The plan is going to be make one big patch panel and then cut it up into the smaller pieces since they're all the same.
Okay, next step is, so I've measured, it's a 1 1/8 from here to here.
Always a good idea when laying out, double checking measurements, make sure they're good. What I decided to do for this was to go ahead and use my bead roller, even though they're round sections instead of flatted off sections. So here I am laying out the center lines that I'm going to be rolling the bead on.
There you go. Okay, I got my budget Eastwood bead roller, the cheapest one on their website, with the 1/2 inch bead in it.
Of course, my bead roller is maximum is 16 gauge, and I'm rolling the max through there, so it is a little bit of a struggle, but it got the job done. And once I had it all bead rolled out, then I cut the individual patches I was going to need for the driver's side running board.
Okay, I think the best way to do this is to go ahead and unweld this piece here since it's already destroyed. Clearly someone actually chewed it out to stick in something similar to this on the back side and then fill it up with crud, but unfortunately refilled up with crud and rotted out. So I'm going to unweld this, and I think I'm going to go ahead and unweld this and pull them off, and then I can do any work to it. Weld these in. Now these will still need some adjustment. Profile is 100% exactly what I want, but now that they're small chunks, straight chunks, I can beat them closer to a proximity of this a lot easier as little individuals than as one big chunk. So let's go ahead and do that.
Here we are trying to find where the spot welds are by grinding a little bit off and then hit it with the drill to knock the pinch welds out.
That is pretty chewed up. So now we need to fine tune this piece up and get it fitting a little better. We're going to do Fritzy's old cotton butt. First step is take your patched area, your patched piece, and you go ahead and tack it where you want to weld it, because it ain't going to move. Now, we got it tacked down, it ain't going anywhere. Next step is to cut one corner. Now it's cut like that.
You should check out Freezy Fabrication. Cool old guy, Scottish I believe. Anyways, he restores old cars and he films it sort of similar to us, except he's considerably more advanced as a metal worker and actually uses even lower tech tools than I do. He uses, his welder is a flux core welder as opposed to my nice MIG and also TIG. But definitely worthwhile the time to check out. He has a lot of excellent tips and tricks on how to do this to get excellent results. Very well worth the time to check out. And enjoy. You should enjoy his channel if you get a chance, if you're into this stuff.
And I'm going to fine tune the shape. Hammer and dolly. That's a dramatic improvement. You can see right already. It's so much better than rock right there. Okay, as you just saw me, I got it completely welded in here, and then at these lower points, I've got it tacked. Now the next step is I need to get these raised areas to match each other, and that's going to be some hammer and dolly work.
Once you got it welded in place, next step is to go ahead and remove the piece that you welded over and knocked out of the way. You see that rotten piece I'm busy beating out right there. It doesn't take long to do. It's actually a very effective way to get a really good fit using any sort of wire feed welder, because the wire feed welder is not only more tolerant of a gap, but really kind of needs a gap, almost exactly a disc width. And of course then beating everything into the final shape before finish welding. Now that it's in shape, I went ahead and then did the final finish welding. I try to alternate around because of this is good practice when welding on sheet metal. Now this particular sheet metal is exceptionally thick, and it's got lots of ridges in it for strength, but it's still a good idea to move it around and try and keep the heat from building up too much. Now, a better practice is to also go ahead and blow some air on it, take a little more time between welds, just generally try and avoid heat buildup as you're working. And I decided to go ahead and remove that main brace underneath there, and it's same process as removing any spot welded piece. First step is to figure out where the spot welds are, drill them out. I used probably too small of a drill, so here I am going with a cold chisel to try and knock it loose.
This is now off. It needs to be straightened out, but it can be reused and cleaned up and reused. That's the plan. And there's all this crud underneath here, which is obviously the reason why it rusted out. So that needs to be cleaned up. You can see from underneath here just how much is rotted out.
Okay, we're gonna do another cut butt and follow on. And lather, rinse, repeat. I'm gonna go ahead and use Freezy's cut and butt technique on all of the damaged areas, as this is a reliable, simple, easy to reproduce method for replacing damaged panels like that, getting everything perfectly in alignment. Now, another thing that Freezy talks about is do one spot at a time. Don't cut all the rust out until you have the final shape you want, and then replace it one at a time, because otherwise you end up with something really floppy, and it will be very difficult to go ahead and go through and get it straight once again after you've welded it up and twisted it out of shape, if you cut out all the welds, all the areas you want to weld on before you're ready to actually do the welding. Here I'm just dressing the welds once they're done using the power filer. And final beat into shape for this piece as well. Once again, you had to flatten out the tops of each lifted ridge area, and also to help correct for the welded areas, because even though it's really thick metal and reinforced the way it is, you still get some warpage, and you're going to need to wail on it a little bit with the hammer. Once again, another spot, do it up, same way, tack weld it down, do the little cut and butt, cut the perimeter, one corner out of this edge, and two edges at a time at the corner, and then remove the piece underneath, weld it up, just same thing over and over again. Now, busy welding the brace back into place. Before I got to this point though, I went ahead and put a layer of fiber reinforced body filler used as a sealer over everything underneath that was rusted and rotten. Did it on the inside of that channel as well, and then painted everything a good layer of chassis black to create a nice durable surface. I then had to clean off just the little individual areas where I knew I was going to be spot welding. Did that up good, and that's what you see kind of burning off there whenever there's a flame after I've welded a little bit. Once it was all welded up, go ahead and hit it with another coat of chassis black to seal everything up good and solid, and hopefully this time it'll be everything will be good and solid for more than 70 years. I went ahead and tack welded the carriage bolts onto the bottom so that they weren't going to be a challenge in getting into the slots on the truck. After that, I went ahead and went to town with a hammer to go ahead and beat the nasty dents out of it.
Okay, I've got most of this dent is pretty effectively beat out. there's a little bit of cleanup I'm definitely going to do. It's a running board. It's not in the best of shape. It's thick, heavy steel. The goal isn't to make it perfect. I mean, I keep saying that about this whole project, but trying to make it presentable. I mean, I did a big long video about trying for perfection and accepting when you fall short. To make this perfect is might be a fool's errand, but it's dramatically better. It's a huge improvement over where it was. I'm gonna keep working it for a little bit. Okay, we have these underneath. There are these bars that bent up steel. That this is what the bolts that hold this whole assembly onto the reinforcing frames that come off the frame go on. And if you recall, this one here was right here and is mostly gone. So our next step is going to be making a new one of these, though it's going to be slightly different. It's not going to have this structure. I'm going to have to do a little differently to mount in the center here.
I'm going to go ahead and make up, this is the replacement cross piece that goes in the center that the carriage bolts right in. You'd already seen it in a previous shot, a little out of order, but same process as everything. You lay it out on your new piece of steel, so then you can bend it up and be able to get it to shape using whatever tools, hammers, vices, whatever you have available to do it.
Okay, got my channel made, correct length. I'm going to tighten up these bends a little bit, flatten it out a little bit on the anvil, clean it up, punch some holes in it for welds on the flanges, and then it'll just be a case of figuring out where it's actually supposed to go, which is going to require me bolting it down some carriage bolts onto the truck, fitting the rest of the step, pulling it off, and then finish welding it. Okay, so I got the middle one bolted onto the frame. It's not welded on. I'm going to mark it now where it goes so that I can now take this off, go back in there, weld it up. We're good to go. Okay, as you saw, I went ahead and marked where I think this needs to go.
And now that I got my position, tacking the cross piece in with the carriage bolts, went ahead and those carriage bolts are tacked onto that piece as well. And get everything in position, weld it in, and finish weld it. The test fit's a little tight, but it works really well. I did a little perimeter spots just to get it in position because the holes I punched were in the wrong place, and then I go ahead and go back and fill the holes anyways for aesthetics. It goes in, it fits, it bolts down, all the threads are nice and clean and tight. So it's a good repair. I still have to do the passenger side.
The majority of the work is completed on the driver's side. All the rust is taken care of. There's a little bit of body work. There's some little splits in the sheet metal that need to be welded up. And there's arguably a little bit of body work that this would benefit from. But, and I'll go ahead and pick at that probably more or less off screen. I'm going to be also have to do everything on this one. All very much the same work. We got this dent along here. We also have the rusted areas, though not as quite as bad, I think, as this one. It's still going to require plenty of attention. Overall, I think this one's in better shape. This one here was seriously hit here and it kind of wrecked everything, moving it around. So getting it back into shape, I think, was a little bit more work than this one, the passenger side. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to follow along with what we're doing in a more frequent update, follow us on Instagram at pit_stop_ranch on Instagram. If you want to support us, please hit the like, and if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe. Really appreciate it. And until next time, have a rustastic day.